And hello everyone, it's Haider speaking for this episode 13 already for this office hour. So I'm glad the summer vacation are set because it's quite usually it's a quiet mode where the phone is not ringing as much, but the emails are still coming. And like usual, just for the people who don't know about me, I'm Haider. I'm the GP at Allegory Capital. We are an investment firm and we support investors and disruptors in regulated industry. This is our specificity. We have three venture line: fintech, climate tech, and digital health. And we usually cooperate with venture firm from pharmaceutical company or chemical company or regulated businesses that are heavy in that code of conduct and compliance. We also worked more recently with, for example, medical cannabis companies, that kind of things, where there is a high regulation, let's put it that way. So I'm a former veteran in the art and science of transformation in the industry. When I say the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, I worked inside and outside through my other firm, which is Kenju, which is a consulting firm for transforming the commercial operation. And we started Allegory Capital out of this experience where we felt the ecosystem of innovation is the right way to finish or to speed up the transformation of regulated businesses. Without further ado, let's not talk about too much who we are. If you are interested in this, you can follow some of the earlier episodes. But what we wanted to share here is an open door to our practice, to the way we think, to the way we add value. The hot news, basically, I will drop them. We have a couple. We are raising a Series A of 20 million for one leading medical dispensary in New Jersey. So this is a company that is going to start their MSO expansion. And basically, we are running this at the moment, specifically because it's connected to a pharma play, which is why we are connected to that. So more news soon because we are working on the deck. We received tons of internship. So yes, we could accept more interns, but we are also limited by the people who can basically work with interns. So we don't want to have an army of associates that can just basically wander around. We want to have a minimum of people who can help you. So we had a couple of great interview people who are motivated to discover this industry, and I'm glad this is helping you feel what could be done in our company. Second topic, we opened the application for venture partnerships. We had 2-3 already applications per week, which is great. And remember our target is that we become a suite of venture partners in Q4 this year. So my goal is to have around 20 venture partners that can basically support us in this model that we are bringing. Last but not the least, let's go back to the question of the week. So there were a question coming to this: never cut. Should we cut the split of the equity? Should we split it equally between founders at the beginning? And I had a lot of questions or a lot of wonders looking at this question and saying, yeah, we kind of messed up. We gave too much equity to some of the co-founders, and now I'm the only one working. What is your recommendation? So definitely, this is something that we will detect anyway in the cap table when there will be people that were too heavy at some point in time and that didn't bring so much value, which is a signal for us, a red flag, if you want, of the maturity of the founder or the founding team. I would definitely say equity, even if this is a beginning, is not something you give lightly. So even if you are an early employee, usually you get 4% as a SVP of a function. If you're not a co-founder, right, you get like 4%, maybe 5, 6, and an advisor or consultant coming and taking some risk usually would be below 1%. So equity is something you don't play just distributing it, because then you have to also prepare a pack for potential future employees. you have to basically think of all of that, and your equity is not an expansion that you can reinvent. You cannot all the time re-inject to facilitate that. So once you dilute it, you dilute it. So yeah, so I would say if you are two people, definitely recognize who is taking more risk, and time and money are two different things. So if you can split through the money, and even if you're only two, make sure you have 20% that is secure, that is non-use. You could actually let the company own 20% of its own shares. So like this, the future employees will be covered for having like equity. But it's not good to have a 50-50 split. Usually you can never have 50-50 like job descriptions. It's always messy at the beginning. And that is why we wanted to cover another question. We talked a few weeks ago about being a data-driven VC and what does it mean and what types of data. And I was referring to some market data, like the growth, the capacity of capturing market share, the business models, and that kind of thing. But a lot of people asked us, what about the people? Because the people, if we track data, of course, in a compliant way with GDPR and Europe being there, but what about data that we have on people after having like more than 1,000 pitch now in our drive? What could we say about what are successful teams versus non-successful teams, and can we find some triggers inside inside people, like geographically, demographic, education, that kind of thing? So I will answer that in a second, but first we'll come back to a very old concept. I think it has 15 years old. It has evolved, but it's still working in terms of trying to decipher what makes a good startups team or a minimum viable team for any tech company. So I usually say we need the 3H. It's not because of my first name. It's just we need the 3H, the hipsters, the hacker, and the hustler. And any company that is lacking one is usually struggling. So if you look at the hipster is kind of the kid who will basically be the design oriented, product oriented, UX oriented. So someone who can truly understand what to build for creating a delightful experience or a delightful product, right? The hacker will build it. Like literally, it's the engineer, he's the CTO, he's the techie, the geek, if you want, building the stuff. So it could be like the production guy, it could be the developer, whatever is technical. This is basically what we say as the kind of hacker. And the hustler is the one making the buck. So you need the hustler. And you will see in a second that most of the companies in Europe are basically forgetting that you can have a great roadmap, you can have a great tech transfer from a university. If no one is able to sell it, and if you only go after government's money, it's still not a great valuation because you don't have the business model that's sustaining. So you need to have a hustler who understands how to make money with this. On that, it evolved a little bit. A lot of people started to add another H, which they call the hound or the handler. So someone who can manage things from a project management, people management perspective, like an operation manager, like someone who is making the everyday works. So it's true that technically now that everything is starting to become so much integrated, you need someone who can operate things more. And usually the product team and the technology team, they don't have time to do this, and the front line doesn't have time to do this. So it's true that before it was externalized to fiduciaries and that type of companies, but right now it's true that some companies start to say, yeah, let's integrate that internally. Also, what is happening, it's this because of the size of the companies doing this, it's a lot of work. So you need to have people who understand how to juggle with a lot of things. So this is not a job that you learn in school or in corporation. It's usually where you have a monotask. In here, you do a bit of everything. And this could be overwhelming for some people. So not everyone can absorb that way of really switching on and off topics, and that's why it's this is not a muscle. It's not like leadership or entrepreneurship. This is another muscle here. It's your capability to switch on and to go, like, to activate your brain on a complex topic, immediately solve it and go to the next one. So you're basically dealing with a lot of shit every day. And this was interesting. I found it on this deck from Brain Herb. It was trying to say what is a successful formula, and being oriented and biased toward growth. This is basically saying, yeah, if you can have a great product, if a hipster and hacker builds something, it should go like selling itself out of the shelf alone. But if you have the hustler, this is where the multiplier comes. So I like this because it doesn't neglect that if you have a 10x experience, the product is going to sell itself. But in reality, to get to that growth trend, you need someone who knows how to penetrate the market. And that has a craft or a science to it. And that's why it's interesting to see that you cannot just be good in one dimension. You need to kind of have the three of them, and one is a multiplier. Right? So just for finishing on this people topic, because I think it's interesting to discuss what are the dimensions we detected that could be interesting to decipher together. Geographically, there is a huge difference between founding teams in the US and in Europe. So definitely more tech and product oriented in Europe, more business oriented in the US. So we see that in terms of the product market fit. We see that in terms of the way the company is wired to make revenue quickly. Under 18 months, everyone wants to make $1 million to basically showcase that the company is viable. So it's great to see because it stresses the company business model very quickly, and the teams that they cannot find the business model, they shift or pivot immediately, which means the investment made in seed stage is not lost. It's just like used to shift quickly. While in Europe, because I feel we are so much focused on creating, crafting beautifully engineered products, we have time to inject that money, and we are not so stressed about selling it because we think, yeah, we'll build it to a stage where we pump the value of the IP and someone will buy it, right? Like there is all, I hear that when I say, yeah, but you've been 5 years now pumping the IP value with new ideas. What's going on? And they say, yeah, well, but our exit strategy is to sell it to the big boy in our industry. And I'm like, yeah, this is like a very, very, very risky way of looking at things because you don't have an LOI from that. Basically, you can vegetate in the system like that for long. So that's why it's very, very interesting to see the geographic difference. From an age perspective, it's true that we detected that second-time founders above 40 have a tendency to better drive their companies towards a successful business model or successful growth. Doesn't mean it's a rule, but it's just from a risk management perspective. It seems to, if one of the founders or the leading founder has already had an experience, under the belt, it goes better. So the governance of the company, even if we're not talking about big governance here, it's better. Also, if you look at sex as a variable, usually women-led companies are a little bit better structured to stay longer in business. Um, the risk appetite from men seems to be higher, so there is a likelihood of dying that is high. So it's basically from a pure risk management. If you have a woman leading a company, the chances of that company seeing better days is higher because yeah, it's a bit more bullish with men. That's what we see. It's more brutal when there is a pivot. It's more brutal. It's the shifts. When they change teams, it's more brutal. So it's yeah. It's not again. It's not a big rule. It's just like when you look at the data, internal data. So it's an interesting fact. Do we see also better teams in terms of the engineering quality? Yes, in Europe to the defense here, we see a lot more precision, a lot more in-depth. When there is a function, for example, a primitive function for a product, we see really, really better craft for that function. It's well thought, it's designed for multiple cases. While I see in the US or in other countries, like you have like a one size fits all solution for 80% of the cases and acceptable to basically struggle for the 20%. And that is true for compliance and for languages. So in Europe, we have this kind of structure where we have the obligation to be multicultural by design. And even more in Switzerland, to be honest, Swiss companies have this even more impregnated inside their DNA. So I think this is good. Then also the capacity of people to scale in different settings, like to go outside of the boundaries. I feel that in Europe and Switzerland we have this easiness to adapt to other markets faster. So I think this is also a good thing. Yeah, so from a people perspective, I would say the team dynamics and right now with the fact that COVID went into this, we can easily find now teams that have developers in Ukraine and someone in UK for marketing, and so the teams have been spread out, which makes very complicated to create a real team spirit. So usually the product or the project is making the glue between people, and the founding team is usually the node or the core for the culture of the company. And then less and less have like a fixed office. They have like multiple, I would say, co-working spaces they can rent, and basically they stay in one and they travel to another. So yeah, so that's pretty much from a people perspective. This idea of a minimum viable team is important. Sometimes I even say we will put like a marker on someone because we want to monitor what they are doing, because maybe it's not a good fit for the product right now, but we like the drive of the person. And I think coming back to the traits that we try to detect, there is a combination of entrepreneurship and leadership, right? So leadership in the sense that you believe in what you're doing. So you don't change scope every time. Like you don't speak to someone and then suddenly you change your mind. Like you don't question yourself. You absorb the data, you filter it through Prism, and you can keep the good stuff and trash the bad stuff. I think that way of navigating the unknown in your category, that is the real definition for me of leadership. And people will look up to you to take the right decision for your boat. I think that's good. Entrepreneurship is a little bit more this kind of problem solving, getting shit down attitude, like just hustling, going one after the other. And yeah, I think this is where you could say you have the perfect storm to make it happen, like entrepreneurship, leadership, muscles. You can learn it. A muscle is a muscle, right? You have a muscle memory because you might do it without knowing it, but it's also a mindset. So you don't I will really believe that people are not entrepreneurs by design when they come from the right family. You can learn it, you can actually adapt. It's just being in the right environment facilitate that muscle. So you can learn it, you can tweak it, you can maximize it if you know how to approach it. And on that note, because it's vacation times, and I'm pretty sure you guys it's like 1 o'clock almost, and some people wants to do other stuff than watching a LinkedIn or YouTube video. I leave you with this in mind for today. Again, super appreciative of all the support you guys are giving us by starting this random calls that we started because we just felt we had something to add and something to share. But if there is something you want us to approach during the summer, during some summer drinks, if you're in Switzerland, or basically if you're in New York, we're going to visit, our New York office in this summer as well. So if you want us to meet up and discuss and organize some events, we will. So just hit us up in the comment section if you want us to organize something like that. Thank you so much for watching, and to the next episode if we are not on vacation, which I guess we are not. So see you next time, and with more question to and answers, hopefully. Thank you. Bye.